Hello everybody, in this video I have some mixed media card making to share with you with the Thompson's Craft Supplies design team using my gorgeous November kit, which if you haven't seen the kit yet I will link that video. I am aware that card making videos are not my most popular, but A, I really need to make some cards, and B, I feel like the techniques you use in mixed media card making, they can be applied to other mixed media things like scrapbooking, altered items, canvases. If you take away the more 3D elements, it could be used for art journaling as well. And I feel that for all mixed media projects, like if you let them, the techniques can be applied to all sorts of things. So even if you don't make cards, you can just pretend I'm making itty bitty scrapbook layouts or something like that. So anyways, I'm probably preaching to the choir, seeing as you're already watching this video and someone who really hates card making probably hasn't clicked on the video. But anyways, let's talk about what I'm doing, shall we? So using ABStudio's very gorgeous Carry Me Slowly paper pack, I chose this one that has like, it looks like a cut apart at first glance, but it's not. It just has loads of like little fake stitching effects. So I cut 3 shapes that I wanted to, and I kind of accidentally ended up with the 3 exact same sizes that I used in my last card making video. I think it just kind of naturally happens that way. Like you cut a 5x7 from a 12x12, and then you've got a little bit left that's like 5x5 and a bit, and that kind of works as a nice little squarish card. And then you can also cut a sort of a 3.5x7.5 from that as well. So those 3 shapes just, yeah, they just kind of end up happening from a 12x12. With each of them, I'm going to distress around the edges. They are all cut slightly smaller than those sizes I mentioned, I should say, because I cut them slightly smaller so I can back them or mat them with something. So yes, I distressed around the edges of all of those pieces, went around the edges with Distress Oxide in old paper. Can't really tell you why, like it wasn't, I used that colour for thinking about the grand scheme of things for the overall project, it just felt like the right colour at that time. And then just from a cheapo paper pad from the works, still very pretty, whether cheapo or not, I chose 3 papers from that, and then I've cut my bases or like the matting for each card out of those and went around the edges of that with Distress Oxide in tea dye. I decided with this piece here, the 5x7, I really liked that paper, so I'm going to gut the middle of it because I thought I could use it for something else. I don't always gut out the middles, you know, especially with cheap paper pads, like it's just, I can't be bothered, I don't need to deal with that scrap of paper or whatever, but I thought the middle of that might be useful because it had like vintagey postcardy elements and that's really my jam. So yeah, I am just sticking those together, putting the main part on its backing or matting, whatever you prefer. And then I'm going to start doing some background work on each piece. Now, as you can see, the paper is very beautiful. It's got lots of things going on. There's florals, there's like sketched out florals, the stitching, there's print, there's scripty print, scripty word print and stuff. So there's not much needed, but I just wanted to do, I always feel like doing a little something because it makes it more my own, if you know what I mean. So this little flower stamp is from ABStudio. It was in my kit. It works perfectly with these papers. Like, doesn't it look like it should be there anyway? Like, it doesn't look, later on, I almost forgot that I'd done that stamping because it just blends in so perfectly. And I'm using Stays on Stone Grey with that stamp. And then I decided to do a little bit of embossing. So I'm using this sort of largish scripty font stamp, and I'm going to emboss it with Lindy's two-tone embossing powder in Don't Scream Aquamarine, which is like a kind of powdery blue but with also some elements of grey and black and a little vintagey vibe and also a little bit of shimmeriness. There's a lot going on with these two-tone embossing powders. I really love them. But yes, I'm just going to heat emboss with those. Sometimes I get asked about like what embossing ink do you use, what do you use for this and that. When it's products that I use in basically almost every video or their basics or anything like that, I usually have them linked in my Amazon marketplace thingy. No, not marketplace, that's when you sell on Amazon. My Amazon storefront, that's what it's called. So yeah, anything like that will be linked there. And you know, obviously if you don't want to buy it off Amazon, then you at least have the name of what it's called or whatever. So I'm still going with my stamping and embossing here. I'm kind of doing it so as you can see the stamp is kind of coming in off the edges, just so you don't get like a whole stamp effect of the whole thing. It's just like little bits and pieces just peeking around from the edges. It's more subtle that way. I feel, I'm not even sure you can see the result very well in the video. Maybe you'll be able to see it better if you're watching on a bigger screen or something, but it will be in the pictures at least at the end. It is, I really, really like that colour actually. It's just, it's kind of similar to the new Distress Oxide colour, well, newish, what's it called, Speckled Egg. Like a really toned down, lovely, vintagey powder blue. It's just gorgeous. I love it. So I wanted to add some stenciling, but I just wanted to do like a little practice run on some scratch paper with the stencil and what I wanted to use to stencil with. So that is the Fabrica Decoru Airy Mousse in the colour Fuchsia, and it's very, very light, as would be implied by the name airy. So just kind of think of it like quite a thick paint. So because of that, I just wanted to check, because sometimes with bigger stencils, lighter mediums don't work as well because they might flow underneath and stuff. So I was being very, very careful with that. And as I said, I did a test run as well. Doing it on the cards, I held the stencil really, really firmly in place to make sure it wouldn't move, because with that light moussey stuff, it would, if the stencil moved at all, it would have been game over, completely ruined. So, but again with the flowers, I'm doing what I did with the embossing. I'm just having things like coming in off the edge. I think that looks really, really cute. This one is my favorite stenciling on this card, I think, because of the way it goes across the card. I think it looks really pretty, but the color and the stencil itself adds kind of a tropical vibe to these cards. So they're kind of like vintagey shabby chic meets tropical, which probably doesn't make any sense at the moment, but it will at the end when you see the finished result. So while waiting for that to dry, I did some fussy cutting from the paper pack, which is not filmed, and then also some foiling of these bits from ABStudio. So they're acetate. It's called, what is it called? Like a creative foil or something like that, acetate. You can foil them basically. So I'm using ABStudio foil. I use a little travel iron on mine. You can also do it with a laminator if you don't have a little travel iron. I've seen people, like, they take the paper, just a plain piece of paper, put the stuff to be foiled, put the foil over the top, put another piece of paper on top of that, and then feed it through the laminator. Now, I can't say from personal experience about how that works because I haven't done it, obviously, but I have seen people do it, so it might be worth looking for like a tutorial or something if you have a laminator but not a little travel iron. I mean, it probably would work with a normal iron, but I feel like that would be a bit large and cumbersome, and you really don't want to accidentally hit the steam button. That would be bad. So I'm foiling these wings, both on vellum and on the acetate. I saw in an Instagram video, I don't know if it was ABStudio themselves or one of their design team, that the new vellums that they've brought out can be foiled, and I was like, what is going on? So I took the vellums that I'd bought at the same time as the foiled acetate pieces, or foilable acetate pieces I should say, and I just took a bit of the branding where it says ABStudio to do a little test, because I wasn't 100% sure if it would work with what I had, and it did, and it foils really, really nicely, so that was a lovely surprise. So yeah, I'm foiling the exact same wings that I cut out from the acetate on the vellum as well. One of the pieces was being really, really stubborn there. You do have to hold it in place for a little while, kind of like press it, as it were. But look at that foiling. Isn't that beautiful? Now, they did curl after a while, because I think because of the size of them, they're very small, and the heat on the vellum, they did curl, but I've found a way to fix that. So yeah, able to foil the vellum. That was a lovely surprise. So I put that and my fussy cut pieces just out the way while I did a little bit more work on my backgrounds. I took some Distress Oxide spray in Tattered Rose and just sprayed it directly around the flowers. It just toned down that pink just a little bit. You can still see that strong pink colour, but it kind of helps it blend in with the background a bit more, I think. And I very rarely spray directly with all my different ink sprays. It sounds ridiculous, but I really rarely do it. And I just wanted to experiment doing it on this, and it worked out really nicely. I also used, this is the Fabrica Decoru chalk spray in Gentle Beige. I did the same with that as I did with the Oxide, which was spray directly on and then add a few splatters. And then I'm going to add a few splatters and then big sort of ink dollops of Dina Wakley gloss spray in Carnation. And then next up, to add lots of lovely texture to these, I'm going to wrap twine. I think it's just simple white twine. It's quite thick and strong, just around those cards. I attach it at the back with washi tape, which if you were doing this on a piece that was, say, freestanding or something, I wouldn't say the washi tape is reliable enough to hold it forever, but because these were going to then be adhered down to card blanks, I knew that they would be okay, you know, with the extra adhesive that I'd used to stick them onto the card blanks. But yeah, just to say, sometimes the washi isn't strong enough to hold the string. But yeah, just wrapping that around again, it adds some lovely texture. And then I thought I'd add this stuff. Now, I don't think it's like Cecil, I think it's Cecil. It's much thicker. It came in, I placed an order with Hobbylicious, and in the box was all of this like wood shavingsy stuff, and I thought it would be quite handy for mixed media projects. So I kept the lot. Will probably last me forever, but yeah, just bundled up bits of that and attached it down on top of the string with a glue gun, and then I'm going to add each of my fussy cut pieces on top of that. So those fussy cut pieces are from the bonus cover page from the ABStudio Carry Me Slowly paper pack, and yeah, just adds a really nice layer. The bundled up wood shavingsy stuff kind of adds to that ever so slightly tropical feel, but as I said, adds a load of lovely, lovely texture as well. And then each of the fussy cut pieces, I'm going around the edges of those with tea dye just to help it blend in with the whole thing. There is a fire buzzing around my head, go away. And yes, then gluing those down on top of the wood shavings, or whatever you want to call them. To stick those down, I added a glue gun first, then put them down, and then the extra hot glue on the back of the fussy cut piece helps stick it down as well. Here I'm going to bring in those foiled vellum and acetate pieces, and you can see there one of the wing sets is really, really curled. So what I decided to do is stick down the vellum piece first, put the acetate on top of that, and then the acetate was strong enough to stop the vellum from curling. So I'm just layering those one on top of the other using as small, a little teeny tiny dot of hot glue as possible, and just sticking it down in the middle like so. And I'm going to come back and make them look, because they're kind of like dragonfly wings, I'm going to come back and make them look a little bit more like dragonflies and not just random floating wings. But first, sentiments. So I pulled out this, it's an American Crafts card making sticker book. I bought two of them. They came out a while ago and they were never really very popular. I didn't see many people buy them, but they are quite helpful, especially when I can't be bothered to stamp and emboss a sentiment, or a lot of like the card making ones I have, like they're all in specific colours and don't match and blah. And so I found three in this book. There's one circle, one oval, which wishing you a lovely day and thinking of you, and I've backed each of those on some scraps of the paper I used to like mat my cards with, and then just a simple just for you in black, and again I'm going to mat that with a scrap around the edges with Distress Oxide tea dye again, so it sort of matches the whole rest of the card, and then just going to pop those on with some hot glue, just like a small amount so it's flat, because if you add a little bit too much it's going to be wonky, like slightly raised in certain positions and stuff. So I tend to kind of use the nozzle of the glue gun to spread it out a little bit on the back of things like that. Then splatters, of course. I'm just using the same colours I used earlier. So there's the Fabrica Decoru in Gentle Beige. I've said this before, but those don't like to be splattered with the nozzle that comes with them. I don't know why, they just don't. Maybe because they're quite thick. So I always use a paintbrush to splatter those, and then a little bit of more of the Dina Wakley Carnation gloss spray, and then I'm going to finish with my Nouveau drops, of course. On each one I'm going to add just like the basic gloss white Nouveau drops, just in different ways. Like on the 5x7 I'm just adding them around the sentiment to kind of make that stick out a little bit more, and then on the other two cards just have them in that sort of usual scattered way. And then I am using Nouveau drops to kind of make the body of the dragonfly, so one big one in the middle of the wings, and then like in descending size for the body. I think it looks quite cute. I used honeysuckle jewel drops on the Just For You card because that dries like quite a strong pink. Even though it's translucent, it is quite strong. Thought that would contrast nicely with the black sentiment. And then I used, what's the name of it, Shimmering Rose on the other two cards because that was a slightly more toned down pretty pink, which I thought would go well with the sentiments I had put on those cards. And that is it, they are finished. So thank you so much for watching. As always, there will be links in the description box, as well as to the corresponding blog post if you want a better look at the pictures or anything like that. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Chat to me in the comments if you have any questions, anything to say, anything like that. Let me know which card is your favourite of the three. And yeah, I think that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much again. I am now going. Bye bye!